What's going on, guys? This is the top 10 best loadouts for Warzone 2. They're all meta and they're all amazing to use and very easy to just throw on and go crazy with, even with no attachments. So everything I'm showing you guys, you don't need any attachments, but this is the best setup. So we're starting out with the RPK, and this is the best long range overall. I'm showing you the best long range and short range weapons to start out with. So the RPK, I put on the Kastovia DX90 and I tuned it to max out the bullet velocity and recoil smoothness. Now there are people that tell you you don't need to max it out. If you max it out, it's only going to get better. So just letting you know, the stigma for it not actually being maxed out doesn't really matter. I put on the TAC 597 barrel and then max out the damage range and recoil steadiness. Put on the VLK 4.0 optic. Now, if you don't want to use this, you can use something like the Schlader 3.4, and that's also pretty effective. Or you don't need to use any optic in general. You can just throw on something like the Schlager Peck box, and you can get better ADS. I put on the Demo X2 grip, tuned it to max out the aiming out stability and recoil steadiness, and then finalized it with the 7.62 high velocity, maxed out the bullet velocity and damage range. So that's the RPK. Then we put on the Fennec. Now this Fennec actually gives you no smoke. Now that may sound bad, but some people actually use the Fennec Covert Forest or the Forge Tag Ninja and have noticed that there's a whole lot of smoke that comes out of the gun and makes it kind of hard to see. This gives no smoke whatsoever. I didn't modify the damage range, but I did max out the recoil steadiness just because I think it already has pretty good damage range and I don't want the 8 down sight speed to actually go lower. I put on the VLK laser 7MW to max out the aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and sprint to fire speed. The laser is visible in ADS, but that's only while you're ADSing, so just keep that in mind. Throw on the Agile Assault 7 stock, maxed out the aiming auto stability, and didn't max out the aim down sight speed just because I didn't want to reduce the aim walking steadiness, but I did increase it a little bit. The weight is 2.06, so if you guys want to copy that, feel free. And then we put on the Fennec rubber grip just to increase the sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed. I also fixed the recoil control, so the recoil steadiness is increased a little bit. And that is that. I put on the Fennec 45 round mag, and that is the entire Fennec 45 setup. This thing absolutely melts and has great range, so please try it out. I think you'll absolutely love it. And just to show you guys an example of what I mean by the no smoke, so if you put this on, there's no smoke whatsoever. So if you guys are worried about any smoke, I mean, you guys see the little bits of it that come out of the barrel, but I mean that's barely noticeable in comparison. And when you put on a silencer, it's just a whole bunch of smoke everywhere, and you're just not going to enjoy it. So this is the main meta right here. We're gonna move on to the second favorite long range gun, which is the Kastov 7.62. This actually might be tied for first. So the reason I say this is because it's just as good as the RPK. It just has a little bit less bullets, but it has much better mobility and ADS. So I put on the Polar Fire S, and then I tuned it to max out the bullet velocity and recoil smoothness. Put on the Cast 10 584 millimeter barrel, and then we maxed out the damage range and steadiness. A VLK 4.0 optic, like I said, you don't need to use this. You can use the Schlager, and it'll be fine too. I put on the 40 round mag and then the F-Tac Ripper, maxed out the aiming out stability and recoil stabilization, and this thing is incredible. Basically has no recoil, and it hits incredibly hard, so when you use it, you're just going to be going crazy. Trust me, absolutely worth it. Then we're going to move on to the Minibak. Now, the Minibak is fantastic, but it's also interesting. The reason why I recommend the Minibak so much is just because it has a ton of bullets. Now, this thing has 64 bullets, and that can take out entire teams. And considering how fast the TTK is in this game, you don't really need something that's super fast to kill, like for the Fennec, just to get the job done. Now you can catch people off guard and literally take out an entire team without having to reload versus them having to reload. So I put on the XN RR40, max out the bullet velocity and recoil smoothness. The Bach 9 279 millimeter, max out the damage range and aim walking speed because this already has pretty good recoil control. So I didn't really feel the need to increase the recoil steadiness. Put on the Schlager Peck box for the better ADS. Put on the Marquis R7 stock for the aiming out stability and increase the aim down sight a little bit. The True Tac grip for aiming out stability, recoil steadiness, and that is all that I put on there. This thing is incredible, has an incredible damage, and incredible bullets in there, incredible amount of bullets, and I'm sure you guys will absolutely enjoy it. Moved on to the M4. Now, I know a lot of people love the M4, so I thought it'd be a fantastic idea, especially considering it's a starter weapon, to throw this on there. I put on the Harbinger D20, maxed out the bullet velocity and recoil smoothness. The High Tower 20-inch barrel, just because this is going to be the best barrel for you to actually use, maxed out the damage range and recoil steadiness. Put on the VLK 4x optic, Choreo Precio Factory. Now here's the thing with this, I didn't really feel a need to tune this just because I think it already does the job. I think actually tuning it's going to make it worse. So I put on the Socken ZX grip, maxed out the aiming out stability and recoil steadiness, and this is the best M4 to use. So little recoil, and it's just amazing with the rate of fire that it has. I put on the Vaznev 9K just because this is actually a slept-on weapon. Not many people actually use it, and it has incredible damage and kills incredibly fast. Put on the X10 RR40, maxed out the bullet velocity. Well, just about maxed out. Now I maxed it out, and the recoil smoothness. Put on the CAS 1381 mm, maxed out the damage range and recoil steadiness. There's no optic on there. I put on the Merkev R7 stock, maxed out the aiming out stability and aim down sight speed. Put on the Demo X2 grip, maxed out the aiming out stability and recoil steadiness, and the 45 round mag. And this makes for an incredible SMG. Trust me, you guys need to have this on one of your class setups and give it a try. Now, I put on the Lachmann 556 and the Lachmann sub. These are two amazing classes that I really do highly recommend. This is basically just like the Grawl from the original Warzone, and I set up a perfect class for you guys. So I put on the Harbinger D20, maxed out the bullet velocity and recoil smoothness. Put on the 15.9 Lachmann wrap barrel, tuned it to max out the damage range and recoil steadiness. As you guys see, there's no optic, no stock. I put on the 40 round mag and high velocity, maxed out the bullet velocity. Well, now I did, and the damage range. And this thing literally feels the closest to the Grawl than anything I've ever used. Like you guys see, literally no recoil, and it's just absolutely nuts. So I do highly recommend if you guys want to try it out. I think you guys will love this one. I think it'll be very useful for you to use. Now, if you guys don't want to use this version, if you want to have an optic, maybe take off the 40 rounds, but I don't really suggest taking anything else off just because this is the perfect setup for the 556. Now for the Lachmann sub, this is actually an underappreciated sub that's fantastic to use right now. I consider it a top 3 SMG in this game. Now, same issue I was talking about with the smoke earlier, I compensated with the AVR T90 comp. Maxed out the gun kick control and recoil stabilization. Put on the FTAC M sub 12 for the maximum amount of damage range and recoil steadiness. Phase 3 grip for the aiming out stability and recoil stabilization. 40 round mags and LM stockless mod. Now the reason I use this is just to increase the aim down sight speed, sprint to fire movement, and hip recoil control. Now you guys see it does reduce the recoil a little bit, but with everything else it actually does compensate for it. So when you do go into game, you still will be able to actually just melt people. So I do highly recommend using this build, and you actually won't have the recoil, but you'll still have the same movement benefits from the no stock. So just keep that in mind. This is a fantastic build. I really highly recommend using it. Now, here are one of my 2 final favorite weapons, and I'm going to actually go over a secondary, so it's going to be technically 11, but this is the main things. The Vel 46 is something that everybody has unlocked as the SMG. I throw in the 50 round mag, the X10 RR40, max out the bullet velocity and aim down sight speed, the Lock DX 203mm, maximum amount of damage range and recoil steadiness. Put on the Demo RXT stock. I didn't change it because there was no reason for me to change it. The ZLR combat grip, max out the sprint to fire speed and recoil steadiness. This already has low recoil as it is, so any recoil boost, I mean, it's cool, but you should probably focus on the other things like ADS and movement, and this is the best build for the Vel 46. Trust me, you want to use that. And then the MX9. This thing is essentially the AUG. Trust me, this thing is so good. I put on the 32 round mag, but if you didn't have the 32 round mag on there and you just wanted this to be a movement build, all you have to do is take this off and just keep everything else on there, because I put on the X10 RR40 for the bullet velocity and, bullet velocity and recoil smoothness. Put on the 508mm rear guard. Now, there actually is apparently one that's better, which is this one, the 16.5 Brune. Now, if you want to use this one, feel free, but I just saw that there were more cons, and you actually get a reduction of recoil control, which is something that you don't really get with this, so I thought this would be a better idea, especially considering, look at all the same amount of pros you're basically getting minus the movement speed. So I throw on the maximum amount of damage range and recoil steadiness, VLK laser 7MW. Slimline Pro is so cool. Like, it is such a cool attachment to have on there. And just to demonstrate how good it actually is, look at this. Literally melts. Now I don't even want to try to actually shoot this one, but you guys see it basically has no recoil. It's so insanely good that it actually competes. Like, I'm actually gonna try. I'm probably gonna fail, but let's show you guys how good it is. It's an incredible gun. Absolutely incredible gun. Now, the final thing I actually do want to show you guys, even though we weren't already with over 10, is this. the Akimbo Basilisk. This thing is so good. Make sure you have the Akimbo Basilisk rear grip on there. Put on the Bryson match grade. Tune it to max out the sprint to fire speed. Now, I don't think you need to have aim down sight speed or recoil smooth. You don't need to really change that. So leave that alone. Put on the 10.5 F-Tac arrow. Max out the damage range. And I don't think you need to change the recoil steadiness. But considering aim walking speed is the other variable, I guess you could put that on there. I just don't think it's really necessary to really change. So you could just leave that alone. Set that to 0. I mean, I'll just probably remove tuning and then max this out again. So boom. And then put on the Revo LSD7MW to max out the hip recoil control, hip fire accuracy, and sprint to fire speed. And this thing is literally so insanely good to use. I think a common misconception is actually using the .500 snake shot. It just actually does more harm than good. I don't think that you need the snake shot in this game, even though the snake shot was what made the revolvers meta in the previous Warzone. So try this out. Try every class setup out and let me know what you guys think. I think that it will help you guys out so much. And just so people out there that didn't know, I use a heartbeat sensor. You don't really need to use it. You could just use stim or stun. And then throwing knife, please use your throwing knives. I think people are forgetting to use the throwing knives. They're so useful. And then I have the weapon specialist. Now, the weapon specialist is so nice. You get overkill, you get strong arm, looks like you get spotter. And the last thing says survivor. Pretty much what you actually get is quick fix. So whenever you kill somebody, you're just getting the quick fix bonus. So that's the entire thing. Try it out for yourselves.